In this lesson, you will learn how to use the shape tools and the pen tools to add vector-based shape layers in After Effects. Shape layers in After Effects are vector or path-based footage layers. To create shape layers in After Effects, you can go to the top menu, go to Layer, New, Shape Layer. You can also right-click in the comp window, go to New, Shape Layer. You can right-click down in the Layers panel or the timeline, right-click, New, Shape Layer. But probably the most common way that you're going to create shapes in After Effects is to use either the Shape tool, there's a couple different options, keyboard shortcut Q, or the Pen tool. This first option, Pen tool, keyboard shortcut G. Before creating new shapes, whether you're using the Shape tool or the Pen tool, first make sure that you have no layers selected. If you have a layer selected and you try to use the Shape tool or the Pen tool, After Effects is going to create a mask, not a shape. So first, deselect all layers. You can just click in an empty space, or a good keyboard shortcut, if you press F2, that will deselect all layers. With no layers selected, I'm going to go to the Shape tool. I'll click and hold and just choose the shape that I want. I'll select the Star tool. And because I had no layers selected, as soon as I clicked on the Shape tool, the fill and stroke color options popped up. So I can change the fill and stroke colors. I can click on the word fill. If I want no fill, I'll click this none. I can also choose if I want it to be a gradient instead. Same with the stroke. Currently, that little red line indicates there is no stroke. I'm just going to keep it as is. So I have an orange fill color. I have the Star tool selected. So to create the shape, and I can also tell when I look at my cursor, that little star indicates I'm about to create a shape, not a mask. So I'll click and I'm going to drag. I can press the spacebar to reposition as I'm dragging out the shape. I can rotate by just turning my mouse. When I'm happy, I'll just let go. And if you look in the Layers panel, you'll see Shape Layer. Similar to when adding text layers, when you create a new shape layer, or when you select a shape layer in the Layers panel, the Properties panel is going to open automatically, and there are a lot of customization options you can do in the Properties panel. But all of these properties in the Properties panel, they are also available if you twirl open a shape layer. If you have a shape layer selected and you choose the Shape tool, when you click, by default, After Effects is just going to create additional shape layers on that shape layer. So if you wanted to create a mask instead of adding new shapes, with the shape layer selected, there's a little button right here where you can choose whether you want to create a mask or a shape layer. With no layers selected, I can select the Pen tool, keyboard shortcut G, choose a fill color stroke, then I can just click and create custom shapes by just adding points. If I want more of a curved shape, I'll delete that shape. I'll tick this little box, Roto Bezier, and now when I make that same shape, you'll see I'm getting more of a curved shape. And remember that shape layers are vector or path-based. They're made up of these points or vertices, and these vertices make shape layers very customizable, and you can do all sorts of things in After Effects with shape layers. A must-know shape layer trick to impress your friends. If you want to create shapes that fill up the entire composition, first make sure that you have no layers selected. Choose a shape in the Shape tool. I'll choose the Rectangle tool, and rather than clicking and dragging out a new shape, if I want that shape to fill up the entire composition, all I have to do is just double click right on the Shape tool, and easy as that. And it works with all of the shape tools. If I do the ellipse, double click, it's going to fill within the bounds of the composition. If I wanted a perfect circle, I can hold the Shift key first, double click. That will also work if I did that with the Rectangle tool. Choose Rectangle, Shift, double click, and now I have a perfect square that fills up the bounds of the composition. And if you're dragging out a rectangle and you want a perfect square, just press the Shift key. The same if you were doing with the ellipse tool. Click. If you want a perfect circle, hold the Shift key. That by default, if you create a new shape layer, I'll press Shift to make a perfect circle. When you let go, After Effects is going to put the anchor point at the center of the composition, not at the center of the new shape layer. Now you can move the anchor point by going to the Pan Behind tool, making sure the layer is selected so you can see it, and now you can move it. You can also press Command or Control and double click on the Pan Behind tool to center it. And if you want the anchor point to always be at the center whenever you create new shape layers, go up to the top menu, After Effects Settings, General, then tick this box to center anchor point in new shape layers. Click OK. Make sure no layers are selected. Now the next time you add a new shape, click, drag, hold the Shift key, see where that anchor point is. When I let go, it's going to jump to the center of that shape layer automatically. If you have text layers that you want to convert into shape layers, you can simply right-click on a text layer, go to Create, and choose Create Shapes from Text. That will hide the original editable text. Then create a folder called Outlines. Now all of the text are shape layers, and they're all grouped by individual characters. With no layers selected, I'll go to the Shape tool, choose the Rectangle tool. I've got this orange fill color. I'm just going to click and drag out a rectangle. One thing to be aware of when working with shape layers is just remember that the shape layer itself has its own set of transform properties, just like every other layer in After Effects. That's the anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. And each shape that you add under that main shape layer has its own set of transform properties. There may be some additional properties depending on the shape, but just be aware of if you're trying to change the transform properties for a shape, make sure that you're under that shape's transform properties and not the layer's transform properties. And you can see that in the Properties panel. At the top, you see it says Layer Transform. That's for the main shape layer that you're seeing here on the top. And then down below, the Shape Transform, that's going to be for that rectangle. The real power and fun behind shape layers is adding shape attributes. And you can add shape attributes. When you twirl open a shape layer, you'll see Add, click the arrow, and these are the shape attributes. You'll also find that at the very top, when you have the shape layer selected or when you have a shape tool selected, you'll see an Add button. That's that same menu. These are broken down into groups. This first group here, these are paths, so you can create new shapes in this menu. These are called paint operators, so you can add multiple fills and strokes on your shape layers. In this bottom section here, this is kind of where all the fun happens. These are the path operations. And at the very top, there is the group. If you add that, that's going to create an empty group. It will have transform properties, but the group is good when you want to organize your shapes or when you really start creating some complex shape animations. If you have nothing selected and you go to the Add menu and click, let's say I add a stroke, it's just going to add it under that content group, but it's not going to add it to the rectangle. So if I wanted to add a second stroke into this rectangle, I'll delete that other stroke. I'm going to select the rectangle, and then I'm going to go to the Add menu, and I'll choose Stroke. It's going to place the second stroke above the existing stroke. So if I was to change this, let me just pick anything here. I'll just pick a blue color. And I increase the stroke width. You can see it's starting to cover the white stroke. The order of the groups does matter. There is a hierarchy when you're working with shapes. So if I drag the stroke below stroke 1, now I can see both strokes, and I can add as many different strokes as I want to really create some kind of cool stroke effects. My recommendation, create some shapes, go to the Add menu, and play around with some of these. They can be really fun. Repeater, very popular. Does exactly what it sounds like. It's going to repeat the number of shape layers that you have. One of my favorites, wiggle paths. You get this instant wobbly animation. And when you twirl open wiggle paths, you will see there are a ton of customization options here. So you can really create some cool effects. Probably one of the most popular shape attributes is trim paths. I'll add trim paths. Just know that trim paths work best on strokes. So I'm going to toggle off the fill. I'm also just going to change the stroke color to my orange. I'll go to the trim paths and twirl that open. I'll click the stopwatch next to the end and start properties to add a keyframe. I'm going to change the starting value to 100%. So they're both at 100% at the beginning. I'm going to move the CTI forward in time just before the 2-second mark. I'm going to change them both to 0%. I'm going to click on Start to select the keyframes, and I'm just going to offset those keyframes. Just move them down the timeline a little bit. I'll move the CTI back to the beginning, tap the spacebar. We've got ourselves a nice simple little trim paths animation. Add a little text. Cool. And a little bonus tip. If you want to reverse directions, select the keyframes, Command or Control C to copy them to your clipboard. Just drag the CTI to where you want to paste, Command or Control V to paste. With the keyframe selected, right-click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and choose Time Reverse Keyframes. So now the trim paths are going to animate. That's going to go in the reverse direction. You can adjust the timing if you want it to hold a little bit more. Just move the keyframes further apart so it'll hold. Now it reverses directions. And if you want to repeat, you could just select them all, copy them to your clipboard, Command or Control C, move the CTI down the timeline a little bit, and paste as many times as you need. But that's trim paths and shape layers for the win. Now that you know about working with shape layers in After Effects, in the next lesson, you are going to learn about layer masks.